Anything else?
You said that in the age of Kali Yuga, in this age, that we have to start with Ishvara Pranidhana.
I didn't say that you have to start with it. You were doing another one, which is Kriya Yoga, which says Tap, Swadhyaya, and then Ishvara Pranidhana. Unless you've done Swadhyaya, you can never enter the realm of Ishvara Pranidhana. And that's not the final, that's Kriya Yoga only. That's not the state of a yogi who has transcended all these things. Kriya Yoga are the first path. In the first path, when you finish that, you understand what the Kriya Yoga is. Okay? In Kriya Yoga there is Tap, Swadhyaya, and then Ishvara Pranidhana. And these constitute Kriya Yoga. Iti Kriya Yoga. Okay? But you've got to go much further because you've got to transcend all these. This is given in Patanjali. And so when you say Pranidhan, Ishvara Pranidhan, nah, you can't do it unless you have no sensitivity, no attachments, nothing that can deter you from your path. Okay? There you'll reach. If you're not sensitive about what anybody says, or your circumstances, or anything that happens physically in the physical body, in the Vaishvanara, then you reach the next part of the same requirement, prerequisite, where they say you have to understand your own mind absolutely. At the same time, you have to understand it through your study of the scriptures. Because scriptures only talk of the mind. These days they are doing research in EQ and they have taken away all the Shastras from India and must have taken them from various other religions also. But they are wanting to know how can a person live in the world, do everything, and live amongst all types of people, and yet be at absolute peace with himself. How will that be? You can do that only if you've done this preliminary step. You've practiced it until it becomes an essential quality of yours. Personally, you abide in this. Your level of consciousness goes on changing. And when the level of consciousness goes on changing, the first thing that is changing, it will show that you're changing, is your mind. Your mind is still sensitive. You haven't changed at all. Then whatever the change is, it's only temporary. Otherwise, if there's somebody who just doesn't change, that's the quality which you have to imbibe. That eternal silence must come. You know somebody is a liar, you know somebody is a thief, you know somebody is a saint, you know somebody is very, very good, you know everything. But you're not attached because of this, neither negative nor positive. You understand? Things are what they are. You're not attached to anything. And in detachment, in spirit, you're one with all. Unless you're one with all, you haven't reached the Advaita Tattva, which is your goal. Otherwise, we're just talking about it, we don't mean it. Somebody.
When the Lord says, give your mind and intellect to me, that's not Ishvara Pranidhana. Because that one can do without.
You think it's so easy to do it? That will be necessary for Ishwar Pranidhana. But do you think it's easy to do that? Your intellect says that so-and-so is absolutely wrong, and you are not even listening to your intellect. Your mind says, I don't want this under any circumstance, and yet you say it's perfectly all right. And you are unmindful of it. Can you imagine such a state? Then your intellect is not agreeing with you, and you agree with somebody else's puny little or stupid little intellect, which is going headlong into disaster. You say, never mind. Can you do that? Will it be easy? You can't lift a finger unless I have decided. Even when you know your intellect is very foolish, you must listen to it, isn't it? You never listen to anybody who knows better. And the one who knows better doesn't say, I know better. Why should he bother to say it even? And the mind doesn't speak. It doesn't say a word. There are no reactions. Can you think that state is easy? That's the most difficult state. Once you reach that, then you can say the first line also, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mamanasvara Yudhaya Cha. You will only be able to do that if you don't listen to your mind and buddhi. Otherwise, you think I'm protecting myself, the interest of my eye and mind, and you may be stealing from everybody else. You are doing all things which are totally incorrect. But why should I give up my intellect? Why shouldn't I be clever enough and shrewd enough to do what I can do? And so, it's very, very difficult. Not a laughing matter. It's the most difficult thing. To transcend the mind and intellect. A person who has transcended his mind and intellect is a realized soul. He is abiding in the Atma. That's why he doesn't seek happiness from outside. Atmani eva atmana tushta. Because any experience from outside has no meaning for him. And he doesn't take any cognizance of it when he decides the next thing. He doesn't decide it, it just happens. He just doesn't think. Why should he think of something unnecessarily? Okay? That is the time when you can identify Advaita. You're reaching the realm of non-duality, Advaita.
When he speaks of surrender to the personal God in Vedanta, is that also on about the same level as Ishwar Pranidhana?
Ishwar Pranidhan is Pranidhan to Ishwar. Ishwar, the creator of the world. Ishwar is not Atma. That's not the ultimate thing. Ishwar has created the world. Vaishvanaram. Ishwar has created. And mind is also Ishwar's. Intellect is also Ishwar's. And he is the creator of these. But creator of these. But creator of the illusion. Mind is only an illusion. Mind has no truth about it. No truth whatsoever. Our imagination has no truth whatsoever. You know, when we think, thinking is all a fantasy. Why? Because it's not the truth. The people we are thinking about don't fit it into the mind. It's just a whiff. We're just imagining it. So it can't be the truth. So when we say we are thinking very hard or we are dreaming, thinking is a part of dreaming, dream state. They call it a Sapan Lok. Now in the Sapan Lok, we have twisted thinking. Here, when we are conscious of it, Thinking is twisted because we are not looking at the facts as they are. I think this happened, I think that happened, I think this happened, I think. Think, you have no business to think. Because whatever you think is your imagination. It can be illusion, it can be delusion, it can be imagination. And you think, it's my memory. No memory can ever be called truthful. Because memories are of the past tense and of long things that happened long ago which you can't even remember. And we say, oh, I remember it absolutely vividly, this happened. And say, don't fuck. Because memories don't have all this. Memories are always getting twisted. And memories are the ones that make us behave in most odd manner. They are based on the mind and your reactions. So memories are a delusion. Memories are not correct. The prejudices and the biases all are born of this. The aberrations are all in the memory. Twisted things, twisted meaning, or blaming other people for something, or imagining that you know what they're thinking, what they're doing, and this is what they mean, and going on blaming them. It's one of the most foolish things to do because it's just imagination. And what we do is, we find one thing wrong somewhere, we go on repeating, we have lost our balance of the mind. As a matter of fact, the aberrations are ruling us. We try to use something to make our own gains. It's the biggest and the highest stupidity we can indulge in, isn't it? When we are sane, when we want to reason, we know it's all nonsense. Otherwise, you'll say, why should I think? Why should I imagine? Even when a person talks to you, you can't take the person as the truth and tell him the truth. And then you say, he said it, he doesn't mean it. Because if the person says something very, very beautiful, does something very, very good, then you say, he means it. Otherwise, he's sick. Simple thing, put it under the head, sickness, mental fever. So, whatever he says, he said when he was delirious. Delirious with the bug called ego, called greed, called kam, krodh, lobha, moh, ahankara, any one of these, or attachments, is delirious. So everything he says is based on a fever. Fever which is unnatural where your Atma is concerned. You are not swasth, you are not abiding in the sin. So what you're saying is not correct, it has no basis. Somebody will say, well, everybody is telling lies. I say, yeah, this is the Kali Yuga. Have a look what's happening in the world. All over the world. All over the world, what is happening? We're going fast, very, very fast into Kali Yuga. Now the things have come to pass that they say, please don't go out in dark. They'll divert your car and they'll do something. And people are doing all these nonsensical things, taking away your cars, taking away the people, kidnapping the people, kidnapping the women in crossroads. And you know where? Ashram Chowk. You know where Ashram Chowk is? One of the busiest chowks. Even there. When the lights are red, this is what they do. Now this is not a normal thing that happens. This is some serious sickness, very, very serious sickness which has made the person do something with a big bravado and landed him into a mess and landed other people into a mess for nothing. But this is what is happening. These days, as we've read in the papers, 200 families, they've disowned their sons. You must have read it yourself. Rich people. And these rich people go in their cars, in their big paraphernalia that they have to steal, and along with the police. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine how much we've been depraved? This is the mind going in the wrong direction. So, are we going to trust this mind? Bhagavan says, give up this mind and give us the intellect that supports the mind. If you want to come onto the right path and path of joy. Okay. Therefore, this is happening. Have a look at these things. Man buddhi mujhe de de and rejoice. I'll give you the ultimate happiness. Surrender these, no matter what the circumstances. That's what Bhagavan is saying. He's not joking with us. You go deeper and deeper and deeper as the situations outside also keep on changing. Then you'll understand the reality of the shlok also. Because when it is not done this way, we don't even understand. Or we could have understood when you saw Jesus Christ being taken for his crucifixion. Why? People are thrilled when he falls down with the cross. They rejoice. They say, oh, he's no God. God, he's a coward. No. Can't you imagine what happened? What must have happened? The reactions of the people who took him to the gallows, who took him, put him to the cross, were such horrible reactions, isn't it? And they did all this. And even Pilate, he washes his hands. I wash the sins off. The sin is on you. He couldn't do that. I know he's just. He hasn't done anything. I know he's a very, very good man, he says. But if you want it, okay, I'll do it. He couldn't have done it. He should have done it, isn't it? Then he was one man, and today every person has been sacrificed by everybody else. So, are we still we like the minds very much? Do we still like the intellect so much? We have to start thinking sometimes if we want to have even an iota of happiness anywhere. Have you understood?